CJ Stroud, still the backup. DeMeco Ryans with some interesting things to say, including something very encouraging. And John McClain says when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins to the Texans, not going to happen, but maybe not for the reason that you think. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop. Won't stop. Yeah. Top two.
Welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610. Speaking of which, if you were listening to the show, you heard Damian Pierce on today. We get plenty of players. We talk to the coaches. We talk to ownership. And we handle everything you need when it comes to what you can know about this Texan squad. And by we, I do mean me. Let's jump right into it. CJ Stroud, the big talk back and forth kind of seems like it's been channeled. The big talk has been that CJ Stroud was behind Davis Mills again. Didn't get the majority of the first team reps the first time the media saw things. Got it the second, and then the third, not getting the majority of the reps. Do with that what you will at this point. Some people are minimizing it. Others, it is OTA type stuff. So we like to react to it. Do with it what you must. But CJ Stroud not getting the unquestioned first team reps this early on in OTAs. Davis Mills was getting the majority of those. So that's where we're at there. DeMeco Ryans met with the media. Let's hear from the head coach of the Houston Texans, DeMeco Ryans. This was the best rookie quote yet. If you're looking for something to be encouraged by, I think this is arguably the best thing that we've heard about a rookie. We've heard him say some good things about Will Anderson, no surprise. We've heard him say some things about CJ Stroud, no surprise. But this was really encouraging because this is perhaps, and I said this the other day when it comes to the evaluation of Nick Caserio, this was very encouraging. This is DeMeco Ryans being asked about the rookies, and listen to what he says, and specifically listen to who he describes as already a veteran.
Yeah, I mean, the rookies, they're all as a group, they're doing well. I think you start with, the two guys that we drafted first, CJ and Will. Those guys have done an excellent job of what they've been tasked. They've been getting better. You also talk about a young guy like Jesse Matthews, who's coming along, making plays, getting better. Right? Xavier Hutchinson, Tank, like all our guys have been doing a really good job. Juice has done a great job of just being consistent in there. It seems like a vet already, like with the consistency that he operates at. So,
Juice, a vet already. That's some good news right there. You traded up to get him. It's a significant position of need. Rookies need, especially centers, rookie centers, they need to be a little bit ahead of their years. It's an underrated, very difficult position. That's the best thing that I've heard. That's the best thing that I've heard as far as a rookie. Little Juice action. Juice looking like a vet. So if you're hoping that the Texans could upgrade at center, if you're hoping that Nick Caserio and company can look like they know what they're doing and they know how to address a need and improve that interior line, there you go. Juice looking like a vet. That's a good thing. Tyler Olsen brings up a good point. Bill O'Brien used to say rookies don't know anything. I'm not hearing that from DeMeco. Rookies know things. Glad we have a group that appears to be nurturing and pushes these guys to be the best versions of themselves. Let's effing go, Juice. I agree. And that used to always piss me off. And it was one of the quotes that I really, really stuck with me during the Bill O'Brien era was when Bill O'Brien says the rookies don't know anything. Who the hell are you to say that? Like, I get that they don't know your system, but they don't know anything. That just kind of always reminded me as like the meathead bully, like, hey, freshman, carry my pads, bitch. Hey, freshman. Like that was like the meathead macho man garbage. Like Bill O'Brien, if he'd been in a fraternity or something, he was definitely the one paddling all the pledges and stuff like that. When I heard stuff like that, I hate it. But it's good to hear DeMeco Ryans, who's been in the league, who's been a rookie, not say stuff like that. I'll get to some of your comments. Some of y'all are being hilarious. Y'all are obviously loopholes. Shout out to the loopholes. If you listen, you are one. Y'all are talking about us selling our nuts and something that Biggie said. I'll get to those at the end, but I appreciate y'all for coming through from the station to here. I'm with Cebu. I don't understand why Deshaun ride and die with B.O.B. That was really, really interesting. Let's hear more from DeMeco. And don't forget to subscribe and like. I appreciate everyone for coming through. This was DeMeco on Nuke Hopkins. He was asked about DeAndre Hopkins, the interest in Nuke. This is what DeMeco had to say about that.
With any player, like good players, right? You come up all the time. Nothing is off the table for us. We'll explore, all options. Me personally, I have not spoken with anyone.
All right, so we'll explore all options. I mean, that's what he said. Doesn't seem to be a lot of interest, and quite frankly, I've made it clear. I know that some people would love to have DeAndre Hopkins back. I don't think he makes sense here. I think he's a declining player. I do think there's obviously questions at wide receiver. I don't think he fits into what the Texans do. I think the Texans are a smart organization. I don't think that DeAndre Hopkins fits into what they're doing right now. Blue Boy 9 says he makes sense for a year. My question is this: if he makes sense for a year, why? That's my thing. Like, what's the short-term gain from DeAndre Hopkins? What are you getting? You're not getting a top 15 receiver. You're getting a guy who's declining. He turned 31 today. Happy birthday to DeAndre Hopkins. You're getting yourself in position to where you're still going to need wide receivers just as bad next year, and you possibly push back the development of certain guys, so the need might be even more, and there might be even more questions. So I get that you would want to get the best receiver possible, but is that always how it works? Like Kansas City is the example that I've used. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is elite no matter what. But you make a case he actually got better when Tyreek Hill left. He actually played better. So, again, not an elite guy. He's going to be a year older next year. Not saying these guys are high ceiling guys, but you're stunting their development. He needs to line up in the slot more now, as opposed to what he used to be. Most of his production is in the slot. So I just don't. I'm not feeling the DeAndre Hopkins thing. John McClain joined the show. The general. I asked him about DeAndre Hopkins. We had some fun today with McClain. I don't think I've ever seen him look at me like that today. I laughed just hearing, just thinking about what the way John McClain was acting today. I definitely got a little bit of a reaction out of him. But this was John McClain being asked about potential interest in DeAndre Hopkins.
They have not met with him. They have no interest in him, and he has no interest in coming here.
So you don't think he has interest either?
Absolutely not. He just listed 4 teams he wanted to go to and 4 quarterbacks. They're all Super Bowl contenders, great players, but none have the kind of money he wants. And so right after he finally hires an agent, then stories start to leak about how much he likes the Texans and Stroud. Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't, he just fell in love with him overnight. So his agent's doing what an agent should do, trying to drum up support to get somebody else to give him more an offer closer to what they're looking for.
All right. So he's not interested. They haven't visited with him. They haven't visited with him. That was stupid. Like, honestly, I love Crumpler. He's my guy. That was dumb. Like, I don't know where he's getting that from. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe the internet buzz got to him. Nothing but love for him. But that was I mean, the notion that they met with DeAndre Hopkins is silly. And there's a reason that no one really reported it, and he didn't report it. He didn't do a post on it. I got to keep it real with even my guys. That was silly. And it was just kind of something. I think it kind of disgusted John. But they haven't met with DeAndre Hopkins. So there is that. So why not? And this is where people are going to go nuts. So why are they not interested in DeAndre Hopkins? Here's more from John McClain earlier today on my show In the Loop on Sports Radio 610. What are they not interested in? Do they think he's declining?
They don't want two 31-year-old starting receivers, and they love everything about Robert Woods. Last time Hop had a good year, same year Woods had 90 catches, 1,236 yards, same number of touchdowns as Hop. He's 1 year removed from that knee surgery.
All right, so Robert Woods, look, that's interesting. I don't know what Robert Woods is or isn't going to be. I will say that, they're both 31 years old. Robert Woods is a little familiar with the system, but he's not the same caliber player, at their best as DeAndre Hopkins. I think we all know that. If you think DeAndre Hopkins is elite, and Blue Boy 9 does, then it's a completely different discussion. My question would be, why the hell does no one want him? And I know there was weird timing. I know that a lot of teams have already spent their money, but if DeAndre Hopkins were still elite, then there would be some sort of market for him. Like we wouldn't be, getting reports from Albert Breer, aka Bill O'Brien's buddy, saying that, New England would be more open to it. If there were a market for DeAndre Hopkins, then there's no chance we would even be talking about New England. It wouldn't even be entertained. But there's not. The question is, why? Is the rest of the league just dumb? Are they sleeping on him? Because I believe, and you beg to differ. And Blue Boy 9 right at it says they can't afford him. You can afford anyone. Let's be serious. Like we see teams clear cap space all the time. Happens all the time. You push it back. It's like a credit card. There was one point where, who was it? The Rams or Chiefs? They had $200,000 in cap space. Next thing you know, they're signing, elite guys. So let's be serious. You can afford it. 100%. Brown Chubby Bear says he's elite. Based on what? Like, what is he elite based on? What are we basing that on? Last year, he had 700 yards last year. How many targets? They're forcing him that rock. If he were elite, there would be a market. Period. If you were getting DeAndre Hopkins of 3 years ago, Cleveland would be knocking on the door. They'd be shuffling around money and clearing space. Baltimore would be trying to figure something out. "31 years old. Father time catches up to you. Old, injury prone. I don't know if he's a bad locker room guy. PEDs, hard pass on Hop. Alleged PEDs. Cebu says the Jags should be talking to him for what? They got Calvin Ridley. That's a buy low, sell high type of thing. Big discussion about whether or not D-Hop is elite. I don't think he is. I'm sleeping on it too, Birdie. I don't think he's elite. I don't know how the Jags are coming in on it. Some people will say with McClain, they'll say, well, he's been wrong on some things. He has. A lot of times it's predictions. Texans aren't going to trade Deshaun Watson. They didn't want to trade Deshaun Watson early on. That's a fact. The Lovie Smith's not going to be one and done. Prediction. So we'll see what happens. Cebu says Ridley hasn't played in a year, and at his best, he wasn't Nuke. He had a pretty damn good year. He's only been in the league few years. Nuke's played what? How many games has Nuke played the last 2 years? He's missed quite a lot of time. I don't think DeAndre is elite. Some people do. So we'll see what happens. He's definitely elite. Okay. All right. He's elite. Gotcha. Let's hear from Dalton Schultz. I don't know if he's elite, but he's been pretty good the last few years. Dalton Schultz in the last 3 years has had 198 catches and 17 touchdowns. 198 and 17. 198. He's had 20 touchdowns if you count the postseason, if you count last year in the last 3 years. Texans tight ends, every single Texans tight end that has suited up on Sundays the last 3 years has 207 catches and 17 touchdowns. So Dalton Schultz, just on regular season statistics, he has 9 less catches by himself, and he has 3 less touchdowns in the regular season, although he had 3 in the postseason, and he has more total catches if you add playoff games. But if you're just doing regular season, 9 fewer catches, 3 fewer touchdowns. Let's hear from Dalton Schultz on proving himself. And is he kind of talking about the Cowboys locker room? I couldn't tell. I don't want to headline porn it, so I didn't put this in the title. But it is kind of interesting that he mentioned this. Here is Dalton Schultz talking about the vibes in Houston.
Just knowing that you're coming into a young team who's hungry, he's got a lot of, young guys on rookie deals, hungry to prove themselves, I think is very, attractive and picking like where you want to play. And obviously, actually getting in the building, you start to see that there's actually a strong like veteran presence here as well. There's a lot of good leaders, especially on that defense. And I think, hearing some of those voices in these first couple months has been great. And honestly, it feels good to be in a place that I feel like very hungry coming to work, being around guys, that are that motivated to get better on a day-by-day basis.
Hold up. Say that again.
A defense.
Say it one more time.
I think, hearing some of those voices in these first couple months has been great. And honestly, it feels good to be in a place that I feel like very hungry coming to work, being around guys, that are that motivated to get better on a day-by-day basis.
It feels great coming to work around guys that are looking to be motivated and get better on a day-by-day basis. Is that headline porn, or is that pretty blatantly obvious that it sounds like he's kind of saying that the Cowboys might be kind of fat and happy and content? Tell me in the comments, am I headline porning or not? I think it was pretty cut and dry. Let's run it back one more time. I think it was pretty clear. One more time.
Is very, attractive and picking like where you want to play. And obviously, actually getting in the building, you start to see that there's actually a strong like veteran presence here as well. There's a lot of good leaders, especially on that defense. And I think, hearing some of those voices in these first couple months has been great. And honestly, it feels good to be in a place that I feel like very hungry coming to work, being around guys, that are that motivated to get better on a day-by-day basis.
I don't think that's headline porn. I don't think that's headline porn, man. It feels good to be in a place where guys are motivated to get better. You tell me. I don't think that's headline porn. I think that was pretty cut and dry right there. You tell me though. I don't mind the headline porn, but kind of feels like there were some shots fired there from old Dalton Schultz, which I'm sure will get some Texans fans pretty fired up. The Cowboys did not offer Schultz. I do not believe. They did offer him reportedly, and I think he might have called cap on it. 3 years, 36, 2 years ago or something. But they like their young tight ends. That was an interesting little comment there from Dalton, though. I think a lot of people might get fired up about that one. Nico Collins he spoke to the media. And I'm just telling you right now, I'm not effing doing it. I'm not buying in on Nico Collins. He's going to practice good. He's going to work his ass off. He's going to say all the right things. I've had him on the show multiple times. Not doing it. I'm not doing it. Not effing doing it. Just like Brevin Jordan, I'm not effing doing it. I'm not effing doing it with Nico. We'll wait and see. I'll be rooting for you. I'm not doing it. Y'all can do it. I'm not doing it. Although Pharaoh Brown, I said this last year, and Pharaoh Brown, the way he practices, he got me again. But I am not doing it when it comes to Nico Collins. Let's hear from the young man, though. This is Nico Collins talking about what he needs to do to break out.
Mm-hmm. Being there for the team, balling out, making plays. Most definitely, man. That's my goal. That's everybody's goal. Stay healthy throughout 17. You know, it sound easy, but it's hard. You know, but just sticking to the process, trusting your routine, and just keep going, man. Just getting better every day, for sure.
Nico, he's an Ohio State guy, but what do you think of CJ Stroud's?
Ohio State. Yeah. Go blue. Tell them go blue. But
Cole, our guy Cole always likes to ask them college questions, doesn't he? But yeah, I'm not doing it with Nico. Just not doing it. I'm not effing doing it. There is some wide receiver buzz though, and I'm sure a lot of y'all are feeling the buzz. Xavier Hutch made a big catch today from Case Keenum. He's getting a lot of rave reviews. Tank Dell, he's getting just gassed up. Alex Bregman's rocking his shirt. Steve Smith saying he's the truth. You got all that wide receiver buzz, and then you got Nico Collins, which again, not effing doing it. Just not doing it. Dameon Pierce joined in the loop today. If you missed that interview, fire up the Odyssey app. Here was him at the podium. This was Dameon Pierce. I think Aaron Wilson kind of confused him, and he had some fun with it. This was Dameon Pierce with Aaron.
You did for another class last year. You've seen this, you stayed in the lab, you kind of had to buy it. Just keep your head down and approach the offseason.
Oh, no, what's your question, though?
And it seems like your offseason, you had kind of a low key, just keep working your process.
And I ain't gonna lie, I don't know what you're asking. Like, you won't, like.
What do you do for your offseason last season? What do you do the top last year?
Oh, okay. I don't know. Try to get more yards, more touchdowns, be a bigger role on this offense, be a better leader. You know, just get better, my boy. Get better, my boy.
Talk about your interactions with CJ Stroud.
How do you not love this guy? Dameon Pierce. He joined in the loop. So our goal on In the Loop when we have these interviews is we're not going to ask him questions that he's going to get asked at the podium. Because typically whenever the players come up, or they call us, or they're talking to us before they go to the podium. So when they go to the podium, they're going to be asked about, bounce back years. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. If they weren't going to the podium, then these would be good questions for us to ask. But they're going to be asked about, bounce back years and all of that type of stuff. And we decide that we just kind of want to try to get to know these guys a little bit. So Dameon Pierce joined in the loop, and I asked Dameon Pierce, if what the heck is country as hell mean? Because I've talked to a lot of guys, and they always describe Dameon Pierce as country as hell. He's a country boy. That's what he says. Here is Dameon Pierce answering my question about what exactly does country as hell mean.
What does country as hell mean?
From the way I walk, from the way I talk, to the way I carry myself, baby.
What's the most country? What's your favorite country meal?
Country meal?
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of got to go fried chicken, collard greens, candy yams, and macaroni.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
that's so.
And you got to have cornbread with the perfect crust on the bottom.
All right, is that
That's about
slightly burned?
Slightly.
My God,
A
right
tad
there.
over golden brown. Make sure it's done, baby.
That's my guy right there. What'd you do in Bainbridge?
I like to say it's a lot of grass and opportunity. So, naturally football, naturally football is one of the things I gravitated towards. Just get a ball and go find somebody yard big enough to play.
Guess you were playing Jenga or something on Texans radio. Are you a board game guy? And I guess I'm kind of going back to the whole growing up in a small town thing.
Not really. I'm more of an outside street light kind of guy. Street light, come on, it's time to go home.
Yeah, that's old school. So
dodgeball, all that type of stuff.
Dodgeball. We had something we call road ball.
Describe it. What is that?
Two-hand touch football in the road.
Okay. Slightly burned cornbread. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of us white folk don't get that. We make it either like too light or we burn it. So we don't get that middle ground. I think we struggle with that too on the mac and cheese. That is it's very apparent that in many instances the mac and cheese and the cornbread game is not respected in our culture, I guess. I don't know. Although there is some really good mac and cheeses, I will tell you. Try to put you up on that. This was Dameon Pierce talking about the difference between this year and last year when he joined In the Loop.
How are you feeling this year as compared to last year?
I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm excited, and I got a whole bunch of guys around me who feel the same exact way. So I'm excited to see what what we make of it. We got coming up on the tail end of OTAs. Next week vet mini company. We out for a couple weeks, and we got a couple weeks off to get our mind right, get our body right, and then we're going full steam ahead until camp. And from camp, once we get into camp is rolling. We're getting ready for the season. So I'm just excited to be around a lot of guys who kind of are in the same mindset as me. And the coaching staff as well. So it's just a great feeling to have a lot of guys excited for football, and it's a lot of reason to be excited.
All right, I like that. Doesn't it get you kind of fired up a little bit? I'm worried about the use though. My question to Dameon Pierce, and I brought this up 100 times. That style scares me if you're going to be giving it to him 25, 30 times a game. 15, 20, 30. It scares me. And that's why I've talked about him being a Marion Barber type of closer. Minimize so you can maximize when it comes to Dameon Pierce. Minimize so you can maximize that production, that finisher, that violence, that football love, which we'll hear in a second, and you'll get even more fired up about Dameon Pierce. But at Florida, it was really weird because he only got double-digit carries 7 times. I know Dan Mullen was an idiot, and I think COVID kind of broke Dan Mullen. I think Dan Mullen kind of lost his damn mind. And you can just tell he's kind of like a shell of what he once was. He's not he's half a man now. Let's be honest. You watch him broadcast. That ain't the same guy. That ain't the guy that we're used to. But this was Dameon Pierce. I asked him about the use at Florida. This is what he had to say as to why a guy who looks like a workhorse back, seems like at Florida you could get double-digit carries more than 7 times. What is that about? Here's what the running back of the Houston Texans, country as hell, had to say about that.
I want to ask you this, Dameon, because it seems like you like getting a lot of carries. There's been talk about a running back committee, but I want to go back to Florida. It seems like you kind of have a workhorse, build when it comes to a running back that maybe most coaches would like to hand the rock to, 15, 20 times a game. How come at Florida you didn't get double-digit carries? I think 7 times was what I saw. What was going on there? Was there just like a committee mindset? Were you being misused? What was going on there?
Not sure. Just took advantage of every opportunity I was given. I was grateful for every opportunity I was given, and I was just trying to maximize it. So I really didn't focus much on the why. I just focused on what I control pretty much just right now. Whatever Coach DeMeco want to do, whatever Coach Slow want to do, I'm with it. I'm all aboard. I'm a team first guy. And that's how I always been. That's how I always will be. Just like you said, the more quality carries I get, like the fresher I am when I get the ball, the more violent I can be. So
yeah.
And he likes to be violent. And we'll hear what he has to say about that. Dameon Pierce getting a lot of love in the comments. Subscribe, like, keep it coming. Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. Appreciate everyone for coming through, especially if you cross over. If you cross over from In the Loop to here, that really means a lot to me as well. Appreciate you riding. We try to keep it unique. We keep it daily, etc. And Patrick D says right there, 100% every carry. If you're not already fired up listening to Dameon Pierce, this next answer is really going to have you feeling some type of way because you can really feel it from Dameon Pierce. Here's Dameon Pierce talking about his style and going in depth on why that style is what it is and why it's so surprising to a lot of people who know him, as well as what gives him the most satisfaction on the football field. Get fired up. I know Brown Chubby Bear. I think he has a helmet in his little room, his basement, whatever the hell he's doing. I'm just kidding. His room with the jerseys. Put that helmet on, man, because Dameon Pierce is going to have you wanting to strap up.
Man, I don't know, bro. It like my running style is the complete opposite of my personality. So I'm pretty sure if you ask anybody about my personality, you know what I'm saying, I'm funny, outgoing, about the chillest dude, about the coolest dudes you can meet. But when I get on the field, I don't know, dude. I'm just a different guy. When I see that other color, I see red, man. And I just be trying to fight for every yard. Like every yard counts. And I'm gonna take mine whether you give it to me or not. So that's just how I play, and that's the mindset I attack it with.
What satisfies that mindset the most? Is it running over someone? Is it getting in the end zone? Is it moving the chains?
I enjoy every inside game with
Every
that ball in my
inch.
hand.
Every inch with that ball in my hand, he said. Dameon Pierce, fire you up. Now, DeMeco Ryans spoke on it, and we've spoke on it in here. You got to be able to balance it. You got to be able to compliment. The word compliment has been used a lot. You got to be able to compliment. You got to be able to use that other style. You got to be able to have Dameon Pierce in there at the right times. I hope that they did enough to be able to do that. I know Devin Singletary, we feel good about him. My question is, do we feel good about him because of how crappy the running back depth has been? Could they have done more to surround Dameon Pierce with more running backs? And that's kind of the cost, when you talk about the trade, the package trade of Stroud and Will Anderson and all that, and I consider it a package. I consider the trade up. You're sitting right there with that 33rd pick. I mean, that's nice running back range right there. And you got to wonder, would you have liked for them to, maybe been in on an A chain out of A&M who has the Dolphins going nuts? Hell, if the Dolphins are talking about signing Dalvin Cook and they're going to have A chain. So you have guys from the San Francisco pipeline. Shanahan is willing to trade for Christian McCaffrey, even though they feel like they can run the ball effectively in other ways. Mike McDaniel, they draft A-Chain, and they're still probably going to be in on Dalvin Cook. Did the Texans do enough to compliment Dameon Pierce? I sure as hell hope so. But I'm not 100% confident that they did. It's possible, but I'm not 100% confident. Now, the good news about that is the running back position, you can find some guys on the streets. You can find some guys. Now, you're not going to find a Christian McCaffrey on the street, and very rarely you're going to find an elite guy on the street, but you can find guys on the street if you didn't make it work. And hopefully they're able to do that. But the bottom line is the running back room is better. How much are they going to compliment Dameon Pierce, though? Because I think it's really important. I mean, I think if I mentioned Marion Barber in a 2-year period starting one game and having 24 touchdowns. 24 touchdowns starting one game. That's who Dameon Pierce reminds me of. Same size. 1 inch off in height. Now, can the Texans do a good job bouncing? Can they get inside the red zone? Is the offensive line going to be good enough? There's a lot of questions there when it comes to that. But I just hope that they do a good job of balancing it, and it seems to be something that DeMeco Ryans is on board with. Brown Chubby Bear mentions Valladay. I think Valladay makes the squad as RB3, and Pierce, Singletary, and Valladay. is a solid RB room. I don't know what Valladay is going to be. He's an undrafted guy. We've seen undrafted guys have success on different levels. Is he going to be able to protect the quarterback? Is he going to provide some value that the others don't? I don't know. I'm intrigued to see. And those are always the things to watch in camp. How does Valladay look? This isn't really running back time. So I'm glad you asked that, Lucky Redfish. And I appreciate all the questions. Keep them coming. We'll get to those. So here's the thing about like the layers of practice, like covering practice, like covering an OTA versus covering like when the pads come on. So when the pads come on, it's kind of the running backs time. And that's when the running backs stick out the most because, they're running a little bit more and they're not necessarily trying to tackle you or take you to the ground. So a lot of times you can be misled because the running back gets, it looks like he's working a little bit, but that's when running back time is when the pads are on. When the pads are off, it's wide receiver time. So that's why you're hearing, the Hutchinsons and you're hearing about all these other guys. Running backs in these situations, it's just going to be a hand and they're barely getting touched. So you can't really tell. Sometimes they'll go out for routes. But Valladay hasn't done like anything amazing. But really it's not his time to shine. And he's getting a lot of love on here. A lot of people mentioning him. Tyler saying if he can be better than Rex, he's a success. I would hope he could be better than Rex because Rex shouldn't have been in the NFL last year. So if he belongs in the NFL, he's already better than Rex Burkhead. And I hate that happened to Rex. They should just let him leave after his one good year. Shout out to Rex. I think he could be a future good coach. He was just in a bad situation. Tiff asks, why is Stroud behind Mills? He needs all the reps with the ones. I don't know. I mean, he's getting reps. Maybe they're rotating every other day. And when the media is out there, we're seeing the rotations. I have no idea. I don't know what they're doing. And maybe we're making too much of it, which I've been guilty of doing sometimes. I will admit. Twisted Mind 99, Nico takes the next step or he walks. I don't agree with that. He's going to be on year 3 of his rookie deal. If he doesn't take the next step, then next year could be make or break. But I mean, if he's a solid guy, and maybe the next step is as simple as what he said: stay on the field for the majority of the games, which is not necessarily his fault. I can assure you that he's in shape. I can assure you that he's working his ass off. Sometimes it's just bad luck. But I don't think this is like a make or break or you're gone type of situation for Nico Collins. I would disagree with that. Jerome Kick says it's amazing. We actually have good talent, but we don't want to believe it because we're the Texans. LOL SMH. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I do think a lot of people are higher on this squad. I've talked myself into 7 to 9 wins, which might be a little bit extreme. Maybe I'm assuming that DeMeco Ryans is going to be a really good coach and get the most of his guys. We don't know that, but that's an assumption I feel safe in making. I don't know what kind of quarterback CJ Stroud is going to be. I don't know how good this offense is going to be. I don't know how great Bobby Slowick is going to be, but I feel safe in saying that DeMeco Ryans is going to be a good head coach and the team's going to play hard for him. He's going to put him in position to win, and he surround himself with a staff of not yes men. He surround himself with a staff of guys who have a lot of ideas and can bring more to the table. So I agree, but the Texans also haven't earned the benefit of the doubt. And it's kind of like the Astros. Like sometimes there'll be like warning signs of the Astros, not necessarily now because they're playing some good ball, but sometimes there'll be like some warning signs and we'll ignore it. It's because they've earned the benefit of the doubt. The Texans haven't. So I feel you, Jerome. But there does seem to be a lot more buzz than there was before. Richard says Mills taking first team reps doesn't mean a thing. Stroud will win the job at training camp. Not worried. Fair. Very, very, very fair. Talking more about Valladay. Jacob reiterating it doesn't matter what the QB is doing here. Don't care who's getting with the ones. Tyler asks, what's the least you'd take in a trade for Davis Mills? If Jimmy falls through, could Josh McDaniels be picking up the phone? I mean, I don't know. Like, is it worth trading Davis Mills at this point for like a 6th or 7th? Like, if you're keeping 3 quarterbacks and you can keep Davis Mills, like, isn't having Davis Mills as like an emergency type of guy worth more than just giving him up for a 6th? I don't know. Like, what is it? What is a 6th round pick at this point? I wouldn't be desperate to trade Davis Mills at this point. And I don't know if Josh McDaniels likes him or not. I'm not quite sure on that. What do you think about the Texans in our division? Do you think we have enough to win this year? Win? Don't know. I do think it's going to be a competitive division. I will confess, though, I'm starting to get a little bit scared. And this is the OTA overreaction that JJ Watt complains about. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. I'd have to ask JJ Watt if I'm allowed to react. But I'm just messing around, though. But I am starting to be a little bit concerned about what Calvin Ridley can be. Maybe it's because he's just rocking number 0. And I think a lot of times guys look like badasses when they're rocking number 0. But Calvin Ridley on that squad that's already established itself with some decent pass catchers, Christian Kirk, and the other guys they got out there, Ingram, Zay Jones. I'm starting to get a little concerned about Calvin Ridley. Is it enough for me to think that they're just going to run away with the division? No. Indianapolis is getting back 2 of the best players in the division. In Leonard and Pittman. I'll be honest, I was hoping one of those guys were the ones that were gambling, and I know most of you sickos were too. I'm just being honest. But I think the division will be competitive. So we'll see what goes down there. I don't think there's any reason to panic for anything. As far as like what happens this season, I think it's just kind of a process, growing pains, etc. But I do anticipate them being much more competitive. BCB, do you think Steven Nelson is going to sit out if he doesn't get an extension? I think that would be hilarious if he did. I'm actually amused by this. I think it's hilarious. I think it's laughable. I think Steven Nelson played up to what his contract was. It was $4.5 million or whatever it was last year. And he was a okay starting corner. It's the same price that they paid for Shaq Griffin. And I've always been amused by the personality of Steven Nelson. But like this notion that teams are going to be dying to trade for Steven Nelson or that he could even get more than that on the open market, I think is a little bit silly. And I do understand sometimes guys significantly outplay their deals. I didn't think Steven Nelson was like, I didn't sit there and say, damn, they got to lock him up. I actually thought it was pretty amusing when Tunsil got his extension and he said, me next. And then he tweeted out the picture of him changing agents and said, 4 eyebrow emojis and pressure makes diamonds. I actually would be really amused by a Steven Nelson sit out. It'd actually be pretty hilarious. So do I think he's going to? I don't know. Do I think the Texans are really scared about it? Probably not. So yeah, I'm not. I don't know what Steven Nelson's doing, quite honestly, at all. Jerome says, why do we hype up this Michael Pittman guy? Wide receivers, the bad in the division, and he's at the top. Yeah, he's okay. Blue Boy's very high on Shaq Griffin. He's going to beat out Nelson and King. I think they'd rather King play a little bit more inside, although he did do pretty good outside last year. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with Steven Nelson. He's an interesting dude. If y'all have heard Steven Nelson, he's fun to talk to. We've had him on the show. Big ranch guy, but he's he's J. Joe on the back end. Like he's an old J. Joe, and he thinks he's an in prime J. Joe. That's what I'll say. He's not there. I don't think he like did some sort of like phenomenal thing last year to where like an extension should even be thought about. I think it's entertaining, but I'm almost rooting for a holdout because I think it would be funny. The funniest thing will be when Steven Nelson, if he shows up and he's like disgruntled and he like goes up to his locker and he thinks like he's like holding court like Jalen Ramsey or, you know, some sort of all pro caliber corner up there. And I'm sure he'll have some people carry his water. Like, I'm surprised the extension even gets mentioned, honestly. I think it's weird. The Titus Howard thing I can understand. Like, we can go back and forth and we can cuss and discuss the Titus Howard thing, and we can say, hey, you know, I think Titus Howard's worth this, and I think they should wait on that or something like that. But it's a discussion, right? It's a discussion. Who's sitting there capping, saying, like, cutting for Steven Nelson, saying Steven Nelson needs an extension? Seriously. Like, that's water carrying at an extreme level if you're bringing that up. Who even thinks that? Let's be serious. Like, they give Laramie Tunsil an extension and all of a sudden me next. Come on. Let's be serious. That's laughable. That's laughable. That's just kind of ridiculous, quite honestly. We got some Sports Radio 610 listeners on here that are bringing up stuff from the show. Brown Chubby Bear, he says that his nuts are worth $2 million and golf does not belong on TV. That's from In the Loop today. So I was talking about the Live Golf Tour, and I was talking about the golfers who defended the PGA Tour and how they no longer have their nuts. How much are your nuts worth? Because some of them turned down a lot of money. So Brown Chubby Bear says his nuts are worth $2 million. He'd give up $2 million for them coconuts. That's his price. That's actually more expensive than what Lopez said. S.A. a lot says, so I was listening In the Loop on the Odyssey Rewind. I got to ask, first of all, thank you for doing that. Did I hear Figgy say it'd be 10 of them hoes during lunchtime confession when talking about potato and egg tacos? Yes, because there will be 10 of them hoes. And it's like cheese pizza. He's 100% correct. Whataburger is very good to us at the station. Once a month, couple times a year, Whataburger will surprise us with coupons, and Whataburger will bring in, oh, I was looking at me crazy. I know she's going to disagree with this. They will bring in taquitos, and they'll bring 30 taquitos, and there will be 10 bacon, 10 sausage, and 10 potato. And every time the break room gets raided and we go in there, all that's left is potato. And there's usually like 10 of them hoes left because potato is not worthy of having 33% of the pie when it comes to the Whataburger taquitos. Just like if you have a cheese pizza, if you're ordering cheese pizza at a pizza party, we'll go in there when they order 20 pies. Some jamoke orders 6 cheeses. When we go in there, you know what they say to us? All we got is cheese. It's all they got is potato. Potato is not in line with sausage and bacon. It's just not. And there's always 10 of them left. Always 10 of them left. I hate the potato taquitos. Wifey disagrees a little bit, but it always happens. Always happens. Every damn time. Chorizo's legit. Chorizo's not even that great for breakfast. Just not great, man. It's just, and the other thing is this, and I told Lopez this, and this is where he starts calling me a honky and the Hispanic side of him comes out. The only reason potato is such a big thing for him is because some of these Mexican breakfast tacos, let's be honest, some of that meat ain't good. You don't want that in the morning. Come on. Do you really want some of that meat in the morning? Of course you want the potato. You want to avoid that meat. But when there's bacon and sausage, maybe 5. If we're ordering 30 taquitos, maybe 5 potatoes will do fine. There's always like 10 of them. 100%. The damn potato out of here. Don't order the cheese pizza at the damn pizza party either. The hell out of here with that. Don't need that. Gabriel saying just throw some salsa, some picante sauce. The potato in the burrito. I don't get it. Who's ordering this? Egg, cheese, and brisket. Thank you. Potato's a throw-in. Like potato's a throw-in for me. Like if I'm getting a sausage or a bacon, and then, hey, can you throw some potato in there? Yeah, it's not a whole thing. The hell are we doing? What are we doing here? Awful. Chorizo, egg, potato. Okay. Whataburger taking notes. Now, what I mean, some people like that potato. It's just few and far between. You go in, oh, we got some potato. Who ate all the sausage and the bacon? Jacob says, how many hours a day do you 16 guys discuss your nuts? Just ballpark? Maybe like 20 minutes. 20 minutes. The nuts will come up every once in a while. See, I don't. Brisket's cool. I can get down with some brisket. That's cool. But when you start talking about the chorizo and then all this other stuff, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Even if I go to Brothers Tacos, and Brothers Tacos is off the chain downtown. I used to go there all the time. That's some of the best tacos in town. Packed. I'm still getting the sausage, the bacon. They got the fajita chicken. They got the fajita steak. You got to give me all that. You ain't got to give me all that. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Appreciate everyone for riding. Subscribe, ride along. We got to see him on the field. Tomorrow we'll get more into this Nuke Hopkins thing. There's going to be some other angles as well when it comes to the Texans. Obviously, the Stros are doing their thing, and we got fun times ahead, man. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Don't forget, whether you're eating chorizo, whether you're eating potato, whether you're eating sausage and bacon like a normal person, when it comes to this Texans game, we're all in this together. Have a good night.
Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every A is what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop.